Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NvTv. Joining me in the studio this evening is Paul Higginson and Zara Jackson. Hello to you both. We have a packed show, so let's see what we've lined up tonight. We'll be reviewing The Marvels, which is out in cinemas now. I'll be speaking with Yi Wang about the Queer East Festival. I'll chat with director Gary Walsh about his debut Irish feature, Wickedly Evil. And our Powell and Pressburger retrospective continues as we look at Michael Powell's 1960 feature, Peeping Tom. So that's what we've lined up for you this evening. Now, Paul, you're making your debut on our NvTv show here. And we thought it would be an excellent opportunity because, as always, when we record here in the studio, as soon as we come out, a trailer or a big bit of movie news comes on or is released. And that, as we finished last week's show, was the trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie. Yes. So we've recently had you on our podcast. Mm-hmm. If you haven't listened, why not? But you are from Ghostbusters Ireland. We're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. So we're going to obviously get you to talk about Frozen Empire. You know, when we had you on the podcast, you were very excited about it. Now you've had your first glimpse at the trailer. Jason Reitman is back. Most of the cast, Grace McKenna, Paul Rudd, etc. Some new members, Patton Oswalt, as we've said, as to some of the older cast members as well from the original series. So has this trailer whet your appetite for the next instalment in the Ghostbusters franchise?
Absolutely. It's a trailer that says a lot but doesn't say a lot. You can see a little bit of it set in the scene. It's hot in New Jersey. People are out on the beach enjoying themselves, and then all of a sudden, it's like the start of an ice age. Big ice spikes come up from through the ground, through the beach, through the sea. People are dying of the cold in New York City in July. We see the cast from Afterlife coming back with what's left of the original Ghostbusters. We see some new equipment modifications. We see Ray Stantz talking about what they call the death chill. We see the lion outside the library. Looks like it comes to life and scares someone. I'm very, very excited about it. I've got a few ideas where the film's going to go. Maybe not all of the original Ghostbusters are going to make it through this one.
Well, we're going to have to wait to March to see. You're clearly very excited. I don't know how excited you are about this film, Zara. I don't know. But before we get a chance to hear your thoughts, let's have a look at the trailer.
First time in New York history, people froze to death in the middle of July.
What is it?
The death chill. The power to kill by fear itself.
So Zara, that's a look at the trailer for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Are you a fan of this franchise? Did you see Afterlife when it was out in cinemas? Personally, I wasn't, and I know I'm at a safe distance from Paul. He's not going to come across. He's not going to try and hit me. I know that. But are you a Ghostbusters fan? Are you excited for this new film?
Well, I'm a little bit closer to Paul. I'm quite worried. No, not so much. I didn't see Afterlife. I didn't see the one that was the all-female. And I don't think I've watched any of the originals in their entirety. I can feel the energy from Paul change there. No, not a big fan. But will I maybe see this in the cinema? Maybe not. But will I see it maybe on streaming or catch it at some point in the future? Possibly. So yeah, I'm excited because it's obviously something else in that franchise. And I know diehard fans will be really, really into it. But it's just not something that I've ever really invested a lot of time into, I suppose.
Okay, well, I mean, I am someone, just to kind of get myself back on Paul's good books, I am a fan of the Ghostbusters franchise. I grew up with it. I have the rose-tinted nostalgia for it. This trailer has kind of got me back on board because it looks like they're going to do something different. Yes, the original cast are coming back, but there's enough there in this trailer that has got me on board? I know you've kind of alluded to that you're very much on board, Paul. But, I mean, at this point, as I mentioned, you're a member of Ghostbusters Ireland. You cosplay in full kit. I've seen that. We'll have a lovely photograph up of you now on screen in full Ghostbusters regalia. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about that, a little bit about yourselves, and anything exciting you have in the pipeline?
Okay, so Ghostbusters Ireland, we started off as a group of just people online that traded a few different Ghostbusters memorabilia pieces. And from that, we grew into a Ghostbusters franchise. So all around the world, there are franchises of different Ghostbusters chapters. There's Ghostbusters of New York City, Ghostbusters of Calgary, and we're Ghostbusters Ireland. So we've basically grown up in numbers now. We attend Comic Cons, movie premieres, the odd birthday party here and there. Anywhere there's something strange going on, we'll be there. So we have done Comic Cons. We had a screening in the Strand recently, a sellout screening of the original 1984 Ghostbusters film, and that was made a nice bit of money for our partner charity, which is Heart Children Ireland. So that's for children with heart defects, and basically the charity's there to provide financial and emotional support to the families. So we do all our fundraising for those guys. In the pipeline coming up this weekend, this Saturday, we have Ghostbusters Day at Mahon Point in Cork. So there'll be quite a few of our team out there. So we're Ireland-wide. There'll be quite a few of the guys there with some other characters as well. And then we also have our own comic book in production as well at the minute. So you're going to see Gozer the Gazarian coming out of the Spire in Dublin, taking on the form of Mr. Tato as the Destructor form.
Okay, well, we've that to look forward to. I'm sure the people of Dublin seen scarier things than a massive Mr. Tato, but we'll not pull on that thread. You mentioned you do parties.
Yes.
It's my 41st in December. You might get a call.
Okay, happy to be there.
But as I said, we're going to have to wait until next year to share our thoughts on the film. Zara, just for badness, we might have to get you into the studio, so you have to see it in the cinema. But look, we are going to move on. As I say, that's something that's happening next year. Closer to home, here in Belfast, next week actually, the QFT is going to be screening a series of films as part of the Queer East Festival. It's touring across the UK, and I got a chance to speak with the festival's director, Yi Wang.
슬픔을 아름답게 보는 게 문제라고 습관처럼 말하던 어디로.
So that's a look at the trailer for Queer East Festival. Some of its titles are touring across the UK at various cities, including our very own Belfast. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now by the festival's director and programmer, Yi Wang. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Queer East Festival?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. And my name is Yi. I run a festival called Queer East, which is a festival that showcases rarely seen queer cinema, live arts, and moving image works from East and Southeast Asia and its diaspora communities. This year, we are doing 3 titles there with Queen's Film Theatre, and then sort of like, I think the 3 titles captures different period of East and Southeast Asian queer history in different 3 countries. We will start with What Happened to the Wolf, a film made by Nagi from Myanmar. I think like first, it is a very rare film that we don't really get a chance to see a queer film from Myanmar, which a country that still banned LGBTQ plus narratives on screen. Very, very excited to be able to have a chance to bring these very brave films to Belfast. And then we will show another 2 films. One is P-File from South Korea, which is a super empowering, and I think it's like very positive films about a transgender dancer. And I think this is also a sort of narrative that we don't really see a lot in narratives that related to queer Asian characters, that usually you see like trans characters are being portrayed as a group of sufferers and also like the narratives is always very negative. So I think it is a great chance that we have such a powerful film to show audience a different perspective of trans narratives. And then the third film will be on 26th, which will be Rebels of the Neon God. This is a film made by the world-renowned, sort of the master of slow cinema, Taiwanese director Tsai Ming-liang. And we are very excited about this title because this is his debut feature film made in 1992. And as far as I know, before us, this film hasn't been shown in the UK for over 16 years. So it is a great chance like for audience to be able to catch this title on the big screen. I think one of the reasons we decided to do this tour is back in 2020, at our first edition, of course, we couldn't do in-person screenings, so we moved the festival online. And through the online data, we realized that there were so many audiences that are based outside London, and then they of course had a chance to watch our films through online platform. I think in a way, it is also very important for a festival to be able to reach a wider audience and to increase its influence, but also importantly is being able to increase the visibility of East and Southeast Asian queer narrative, I think, because that's why the festival started.
Fantastic. E, thank you very much for your time and enjoy taking the festival on tour.
Yeah, thank you and see you in Belfast.
높은 그대 이제 맞겠지 yeah, yeah.
So that's my interview with Yi Wang about the Queer East Festival. Those screenings are going to be taking place at the QFT from the 19th to the 26th of November. Check the QFT's website for more details. And with that, let's move on to our first review of the evening, The Marvels.
I don't like that name.
DJ's realest, we be the realest team on the list. Watch out, I kill it, watch out, I spit it on the mic. Y'all can't do what I do, just admit it. Money, get it, drop it to the floor. My face look pretty, y'all ain't doing it. I did it, cause I'm marvelous, fantabulous, survive, chick the flows.
So that's a look at The Marvels, the latest MCU movie, the 33rd or 32nd. I've lost count at this stage. I don't know what phase we're in, but Brie Larson and co are back. This is the follow-up to the 2019 Captain Marvel, which was a huge box office success. As we record right now this evening, the same cannot be said about The Marvels. It hasn't had the same draw at the box office as its predecessor, as other movies within the MCU. It has mixed reviews, and this is the point where I'm going to come to yourselves and see what you think. So I'm going to come to you first. Were you a fan of the first installment with Captain Marvel, and did you enjoy The Marvels?
I was a big fan of the first one, yep. And in this one, there were things that I liked. I liked that they pushed that girl power element. But at times it felt like they were doing it for praise, and it sort of seemed a bit disingenuous. I don't know if you kind of felt the same, but yeah, there was things I liked. I liked Kamala's family. I thought they were really funny. I thought a lot of that dialogue was really good. I liked her enthusiasm at meeting her hero. I think we would all be the same, maybe not as enthusiastic as her, but you know, I liked the fact that they kept that up in the film, because I think sometimes you have that element of somebody meeting their hero and then 5 minutes later they're integrated into the group and they're doing all kind of the normal things that the group would do. But there was at times, even near the end, where she sort of had this realization. She was like, I'm here and I'm with this person that I think is great. And so I think her enthusiasm was something I really liked about it. Yeah, there were elements of it that were a little bit like, sort of seemed like gaffes. Like whenever they found the gauntlets in the rock, there was like a picture of the gauntlet on the rock. And I just thought, okay, yeah, so that's so that they know what it looks like, so that they know what it, to find it, because it's obviously gone. And there were just things like that that just didn't land with me. But in terms of like the planet where you can only communicate by singing, and the fact that they used memory from cats whenever all the cats were eating everybody, like sublime and just ridiculous. So yeah, there was a lot to enjoy, but definitely did not love it as much as the first one.
There is charming elements to it. I think Nia DaCosta is the director here, fresh from Candyman, which was another film that I liked but didn't love. My honest gut reaction to the film is that a sense that what we have with the MCU is a sense that they have devalued their own product. All the things I like about it, I mean, we have Monica Rambeau, we have Camilla Khan, we have an Oscar-winning actor in Brie Larson in a central role. It's a bit like, again, with Superman, with DC, I don't think they know quite what to do with that character. Neither of us have really mentioned the villain in this. The villain is very generic, I'm struggling to remember anything. The bits I remember are charming and funny, but I just didn't love it. Paul, where are you going to weigh in?
So, I think Marvel started very strong with the first Iron Man film. I loved it. I'd have gone to see every Marvel film. Captain Marvel was brilliant. It was out there. It was great. Done the character real justice. This film, I would call it a rainy Sunday afternoon film.
No matter what we three think here this evening in the studio about the film, we know there's going to be more MCU, whether on Disney Plus or at the cinema. But look, we shall move on to something completely different. Earlier this week, I got the opportunity to speak with director Gary Walsh about his feature debut, Wickedly Evil. It's available now on various VOD platforms, and here's that interview.
What's the story, Frankie boy?
All units be aware. Robbery in progress. Possible shots fired. 4 unidentified males leaving the location in green tracksuits and masks. Be considered armed and dangerous.
So that's a clip of Wickedly Evil, which is available to buy or rent now on various VOD platforms. It's been distributed by 101 Films, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by the film's director and co-writer, Gary Walsh. Hi to you, Gary. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, as much as you want our viewers to know, going in about Wickedly Evil?
Yeah, I suppose it's just a kind of quirky, Irish dark comedy, some kind of mixtures of horror in there. It's about a bunch of criminals who basically pull off this audacious heist from another gang in Dublin, and they escape to the rural Irish countryside. Their plan is to kind of lay low for a couple of days and then escape to the UK with their ill-gotten gains, and then it's just a kind of series of crazy events. So kind of everything that can go wrong does go wrong for them.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about the genesis of this project, how it mothballed into what we will see now, or we can buy and rent now?
Like, I love writing first and foremost. I produce series, produce and direct in television, a lot of kind of documentary. I've done a couple of feature documentaries. I do a lot of stuff for television, but I just had the bit between my teeth where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go and do something micro budget, just get it done, see it through. Kind of the whole idea of, I suppose, the art is in the completion. So I'd come up with an idea for this kind of just straight up crime comedy that I was going to shoot in Dublin, where I was living at the time. Then obviously lockdown happened, all of that stuff, and I actually ended up moving to Gorey in County Wexford, where I was living at the time. There was I wouldn't say abandoned, but unused house next door to us, and it had been empty for a long, long time. I was staring at this house thinking, what could I do there? What could happen in a place like that? And wrote the script with my brother. And that house that I was staring at, that was actually the house we ended up filming in. That was the house in Wickedly Evil. It was owned by a very nice guy. So I sent him an email just saying, you don't know me, but I'm living next door to your unused house in Gorey. Can I shoot a film there? And he was lovely, lovely guy. He was like, absolutely, go for it. So that was kind of the idea of it,
How long was the film for the feature?
We were filmed over December. We broke for Christmas, and then January we did another week. We were about 23 days all in. So, I mean, it was tight enough. And, it's the same thing, I suppose, when you've shot it, you're like, okay, I want to go back. I want to reshoot this, or, there's one or two things in that, like, and the same with anything you make, where you're just like, oh my God, I need to go back and change that. But, there's a liberation with, I think, with just knowing that you can't You know what I mean? It's like, that's what you have, that's what you shot. There is no option to go back and reshoot anything or redo anything, and you have to make that work. And, you know, it was a tiny crew. We only had like 6 of us really working on it, and it was freezing cold, that house, although it looked amazing in parts, you know.
What have you learnt from this, on this micro-budget feature, that you will take with you on future projects?
I think just working on something so small, it just kind of, it reignites your passion for why I got into this in the first place. And, you know, and like I said, the importance of just seeing something through when you've kind of got a lot of reasons not to, where you're kind of like, gee, it's just too, there is a thing. Look, I grew up in a council estate in Dublin. I'm very lucky to be able to say my job is making films or making television, you know, at any level. And I'm very grateful for that, and I always will be. But, you know, sometimes everyone needs that little bit of a kind of kick or a boost. And I actually think doing this and having seen it through and coming out the other side of it, it's like, you know what, you can do that now. We can definitely scale that up and, you know, appreciate the things that did work well. And I loved the small crew, and there was a phenomenal camaraderie. It was so like blessed to have the people I had alongside me, the actors, and how we did that. And it was fast moving. There wasn't a lot of time to think, which is this, I'm sure it's the same on anything bigger as well. But, you know, so it really was a great experience. You know, it's back to the grindstone, start pitching and kind of get people interested and start the process all again. You know, so I'm very proud of it. I'm really happy that, like I said, it'll get out there. And look, thanks to you. You're obviously doing it, showing it in the festival. Like it's great to see people out there who genuinely are supporting, and not just Irish filmmakers, but, you know, all filmmakers. And I really am appreciative of you doing this and even taking the time now to chat to me on a Saturday morning. It means a lot.
Gary, it's the same on your end. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat to myself. It has been an absolute pleasure. Seek it out. Seek Wickedly Evil out. It's available now, as we say, on various VOD platforms. Gary, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, man. Take care.
Phone call earlier. I think, I'm not sure, it might have been Momo saying what? It's something like, get out. I'm gonna get you out of here. It's gonna be alright. Hey, tell me this now. Look, we have the money, we have the drugs, most of us are in one piece. Yeah, come on. Look at us! Do you know what your problem is? You take life too serious. See, I have a secret too. Secret? What secret do you have?
So that's my interview with Gary Walsh about Wickedly Evil. The film is available on various VOD platforms and is distributed by 101 Films. With that, let's move on to our last film of the night, Peeping Tom.
I am Mark.
Oh, hello, Mark. Please come in. You'll meet the others who live here.
Sorry, but work.
Oh, well, I hope to keep it going for ages yet, so when you finish, why not look in? What?
Come on, get on the cake. Everyone's waiting. Happy birthday.
So that's a look at Peeping Tom. So this is part of our Powell and Pressburger retrospective, because the BFI are doing a fantastic season. So we've already talked about the red shoes. We've talked about A Matter of Life and Death. This is something very different. So this is coming into the 60s. This is Michael Powell on his own. He's not with Emmerich Pressburger. And this was a film that, upon its release in the 1960s, it pretty much almost ruined his career. Released only a couple of months after Psycho, which was a film by Hitchcock that got to a lot of critical acclaim. This film was a scandal when it was released in 1960. He was heavily criticised by the press for the sleazy vibes the film gave off. Now, here we are in 2023, 63 years later. The film is back in cinemas as part of the season, as part of the BFI season, and it is now revered by many as a cinematic masterpiece and one of the films that set the benchmark for the modern slasher. Neither of you had seen this before we asked you to review it on this week's show, so I'm interested to see what you both think, and I'm going to come to you first, Sarah. What do you think of Peeping Tom?
I really enjoyed it, yeah, and I wasn't sure if I would. I'd seen the trailer, I'd seen a poster, and I thought, well, it's not usually my kind of thing, but I'm really glad I checked it out because I thought it was great. And I think we have the added sort of retrospect, you know, we can look back on this now and we have all of the cinema that's happened since and we can kind of analyse it through hindsight, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, for all its dark subject matter, it was quite a charming film, and I sort of struggle to back that up with anything, because it's just the feeling that it gave me. And there were obviously a lot of filmmaking references, and obviously they had like the crosshairs on the screen for when he's filming, and that, to me, that kind of looked like the crosshairs of like a gun sight. It's that sort of thing of like picking a victim and like having a weapon and all of those kind of things. There was obviously a lot of relations to visual ways of seeing. The mother was obviously blind, lots of imagery of eyes and all of that kind of stuff, and a lot of imagery about mirrors. The character of Mark seemed to almost mirror people. There was like things that he would do if someone raised their arm or did a certain thing with their hands. He seemed to mimic that, and that probably harkens back to the fact that he maybe wasn't able to experience certain things without seeing them in other people, and it's that kind of visual mirroring again. But yes, there was a lot of really cool stuff, and yeah, I'm really glad I checked it out.
I am slightly worried, I should say, at this point, when you find Peeping Tom charming. You know, I don't know if I get a sense I maybe have to make a mental note of that for the future, but I agree pretty much with everything what you say. I mean, like any of the films we've talked so far in this retrospective, the use of colour, I mean, you can see kind of particularly kind of Italian horror, giallo, kind of, you can see that vibes. The opening sequence where we see one of the first kills on screen, you can see how that influenced John Carpenter with Halloween. There's so many references there. There's lots going on. It's a film I admire, and rewatching again for the first time in a couple of years, I'd actually forgotten how much, not charmed, but just how much I can see how it's influenced modern cinema. So Paul, like Zara, you hadn't seen this before.
Yep.
So what do you think?
My first thought was it was terrifying, but Zara made a really good point about the charm of the film. I think there's two characters to Mark: the charming, well-rounded self that everybody sees, and then the cold, calculating killer that we see through the viewfinder of the camera. For that to be made in 1960, it was right out there, you know. It's amazing the parallels you draw between Psycho and It, considering they're so close in time, yet they're almost polar opposites in how they were received. I don't know if I'd call it a masterpiece. It is a work of art, but it's completely different from films I would normally watch, and I found it quite scary because I could see likenesses between Mark and maybe serial killers like in the 1980s in America, like Ted Bundy. He had the whole persona and the charmingness, but when really he was just a depraved killer. You
can see the influence it's had upon cinema, and that, I guess, is the joy. I know I ask every week, I'm not going to ask it again because we don't have time, that sense of giving people the opportunity to see these films on the big screen, lovingly restored. I know it's a new 4K restoration of Peeping Tom. I believe that's going to be out in cinemas, particularly the QFT, in December. But look, that is us. That's pretty much all we have time for this week. But before I say my goodbyes to you lovely selves here in the studio, let's have a look at what we'll be talking about next week.
The Hunger Games, they're to punish the districts. Those tributes don't have a choice.
Your role is to turn these children into spectacles, not survivors.
Okay, relax. Don't tell me to relax. We have a hostage, a gunshot victim.
Don't you understand? We must all get away before something happens.
You didn't want me to come here. None of you have ever wanted me here.
Why should we want to keep you here against your will?
Because you're all jealous of me. Especially you.
Ever since you came here, you've all gone crazy. Well, drive one another crazy, but leave me out of it.
So that's the movies we'll be talking about on next week's show, so be sure to tune in. All that's left for me to do now is thank my two guests here in the studio. So thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zara.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode, but for now, until then, goodbye.